Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. There are a lot of numbers flying around out there on AI usage. So Jared Alster from Dune 7 and I wanted to share our numbers and discuss what we're seeing. Jared, always good to see you.
Yeah, same here, Mike.
With my part of my role at Phocuswright being to provide definitive and trustworthy data to the industry, today I'll be sharing a few key data points from recent Phocuswright research studies on usage of AI among both travel businesses, as well as travelers themselves. This will be from recent B2C and B2B surveys that we fielded. And then I'll pass it over to you, Jared, to share some of the research that you're working on and real world numbers from what you're seeing among your clients. So we'll try to go through the numbers fairly efficiently, and then we'll take some time to discuss them afterwards. Definitely put any questions in the chat for us. And after our discussion, we will try to get to some of them. Now, this being a trends summit, I wanted to quickly mention that at Phocuswright this year, we made our travel innovation and tech trends report and series of webinars free. And they were focused on how generative AI and digital identity will converge to enable agentic AI. And those webinars were 1 hour plus deep dives. So highly recommended listening if your ears haven't fallen off yet after these 2 days. If you want to read the report and watch the webinars, just scan this QR code to go right there. So it's been really fantastic to hear all the anecdotal use cases and advice from all the speakers yesterday and today, but it's always good to do some benchmarking. So first, a few points from our recent global B2B survey of travel executives on use of AI at their companies. We got around 150 responses for this survey, which was fielded in August. So first, we asked survey takers how their companies are using AI and found that 87% of travel businesses overall are using it in some capacity, 73% for internal processes and purposes, and exactly half for consumer-facing uses. 13% aren't using it yet, but are actively exploring use cases. Just 1% said they have no plans to use it, and there were a few that were unsure about how their companies are using it. These results are not super surprising to me, but the devil is in the details, which will be in our forthcoming report. It's pretty amazing to see that so many travel businesses, 88% in total, say AI has had either major or minor positive impact on their business. 45% said major, 43% said minor, only 8% said neutral or no impact, and literally no one said negative. Just 4% were unsure here. And the biggest challenges preventing implementation of AI are data security at 41%, lack of expertise at 37%, and ROI and cost concerns at just under a third. But something that stood out to me here that I highlighted is that inadequate data quality or tech infrastructure was lower down on the list. To me, it's a bit of a red flag that there could be a misprioritization happening because data quality and data governance really should be paramount. And we asked about current and planned use of agentic AI, and we found that over 60% of travel businesses are at least experimenting with or are already scaling it. Starting at the top of this chart, only 9% of travel businesses aren't using it and have no plans to adopt it. Another 23% aren't using it but have plans to start soon. A full third are actively experimenting, which is good to see. 22% have started scaling in limited fashion, and 6% are actively scaling it already. So it's especially early days for agentic AI, but it is working already. Now over to our consumer research, where we see clearly that traveler behavior is really starting to shift due to AI. This data is from a recent US traveler survey just fielded in September. And just in 2025, we measured a big jump to 39% of all US travelers using AI platforms or AI-powered search for researching and planning their trips. That's up from 33% just earlier in the year and 28% from last year. So just to confirm, really starting to go mainstream. And this heavy usage is indeed shifting the landscape now, as has been discussed at this summit so much. Here we're looking at the top online resources that travelers have been using for researching and selecting travel components like flights and hotels since 2023. And our data on generative AI platforms in 2023 on the blue line on the chart wasn't apples to apples, so it couldn't be included. But look how the other channels were fairly steady going from 2023 to 2024. And then in early 2025, there was a pretty stark drop in use of general search engines, as well as travel review sites, the black and red lines, while social networks on the green line and AI platforms ticked up. And then just as of mid-2025, there was a really sharp drop in search engines, so going from half in 2023 to close to a third in mid-2025, and a sharp uptick in AI platforms, more than doubling from 2024. So again, really big shifts are underway now, and our reports go into detail on even more significant changes by age group and other characteristics. And this is from a slightly older survey. It was this year, but before Google's AI mode rolled out. And we had found that 22% of US travelers who use search engines used AI-generated results in search, which would have been mostly AI overviews at that time. So this number is likely a lot higher now as AI overviews have expanded and AI mode has fully rolled out. And this is a good spot for me to stop and pass it over to you, Jared, to dig a little more into what you're seeing in search engines and some of those real-world numbers from your clients.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mike. Give me 1 second here, everyone. I will pull up some slides. Great. Well, thanks a lot to the team for having us here. I will get right into it. So picking up on where Mike left off on AI overviews, I wanted to, trying to advance. How do you advance the slide? Sorry.
Click maybe on the right side or arrow keys.
There we go. So I wanted to start here on talking about AI overviews, not because they're anything new, but because they are everywhere now. So unlike a couple of months ago, and it's really fascinating how fast things have actually changed. But unlike a few months ago, where AIOs were only visible for top of funnel terms in Google, AI overviews are now prolific across really all travel searches. And so a couple of months back, we did some research with Skift, and we wanted to understand how different sectors were coming up in AIOs. So we took a look at both flights and hotels. And what we found here is that both flights and the hotel sector have increased enormously since November of last year in terms of how AIOs appear for certain searches. And this was across about 500,000 search terms, so quite a few there. So you can see really this inflection point of around the new year of 2025 to where we're at as of last April. So then looking at flights specifically, these are the top 10 most cited websites for flight-related AIOs. And I think the starkest thing here is that there's really only two brand.coms or two direct suppliers that are included, and that's American Air and Delta. Everyone else in the top 10 are media brands, UGC like Wikipedia, like YouTube, like Quora. So very, very little representation of actual brands in AIOs. Similar story here for hotels. So here it's actually even more stark in that there's not a single hotel brand in this entire top 10. So this is dominated by metas like, say, TripAdvisor or Kayak. It's dominated by other OTAs, and of course, UGC sites like Reddit. So at the time of the study, the key takeaway is that direct supplier brands were having a hard time getting cited in AI overviews. So switching gears to generative AI, right now, and this is growing, which we'll get to in a second, but right now, the amount of traffic that are actually being generated from ChatGPT, Perplexity, and all the other ones to actual travel websites is small. So what this is showing, and this is from SimilarWeb as of July 2025, this is showing that as a category, travel and tourism is in the bottom third of all industries in terms of how much traffic websites are getting from those AI platforms. So it's less than 1%. Now, when we look at all of our client data, what we did is we went into GA4, we aggregated, anonymized all of our Dune 7 client data from across the consumer travel sector. And we're seeing much of the same thing. So when we're looking at all traffic except for paid on the left here, we're seeing that LLMs account for just 0.24% of traffic. It's infinitesimal. When we include paid, which is the chart on the graph on the right, we're seeing is even less at 0.15%. Now, that's where we're at as of September of this year, so last month. However, things are picking up pretty quick. So I think this paints a better picture of where we're headed. And so what we're looking at here is index growth of LLM traffic. And what you can see from October of last year up until September of this year is that we've 7x the amount of traffic that's been driven to our client sites from LLMs. I called out here peak season from about June to August, just because most of our clients are based in North America or Europe. So most of their clients are traveling during the peak summer season. And then you can see here, the traffic has come down slightly as we entered fall. Then we want to look at how well LLM traffic converts. And again, what we're seeing here, and I think everyone has heard these past few days, and I think if you're following the topic in general, what we've all heard is that, well, sure, we're not getting that much traffic, but the traffic we are getting is converting at a high rate. So we wanted to prove that out, and it ends up that's mostly right in terms of what we're seeing from our client data. So here we're seeing that LLM traffic converts at about 2.3%, which is basically on par with the direct, which is pretty impressive. And it's actually 42% higher than Google organic. CPC here, you'll see at 3.6%, which is the highest bar. And here that's not too surprising because a lot of brands do spend a good amount of time on CRO and optimizing those landing pages for paid. And then last but not least here, we wanted to understand how efficient are LLMs at driving revenue. So meaning, you put $1 in, what are you getting out in terms of ROI? So here, what we're seeing is LLMs are generating about 31 cents of revenue on a per session basis. Again, when we compare this to other acquisition channels like direct and CPC and organic, we're about 3 times more efficient than organic Google. So classic 10 blue links, right? But we're about half as efficient as direct. So we have LLMs generating about as much traffic as direct, but when it comes to actual efficiency or revenue efficiency, we see that the direct channel is still a bit ahead. Now, I will make a quick note here is that attribution gets a little bit messy, and attribution has always been messy in terms of understanding what channels are driving traffic, understanding what channels are driving revenue, because usually there's lots of assisted conversions that are happening. You're not just getting, it's not a linear path. So what we suspect here is that a lot of the traffic and the revenue that is being attributed to direct might have had a knock-on effect from, say, ChatGPT. So for instance, a traveler sees your brand cited in ChatGPT, they remember you a week later, and they type your domain directly into their search bar. So we do suspect that there's a little bit of that happening. Cool. So with that, Mike, I want to actually switch back to some of your slides. And I think on slide 6, you were talking about survey respondents. They didn't rank data quality as a top challenge. And you said that's potentially misprioritization. I just want to dig into that and understand what you meant by that a bit more. You might be on mute, Mike.
Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, that was this slide. So it was 18% of travel businesses cited inadequate data quality or tech infrastructure as being one of their biggest challenges. I don't know. I think we all know that most travel businesses have quite messy, fragmented data, if not all businesses, travel or not. And this is, a huge problem that needs to be solved for AI to work properly. It really needs clean data to function properly. So I'm not sure if travel companies don't realize how messy their data is or how much of a priority clean data is for AI, or maybe they have a really good handle on it already. That is kind of hard to pinpoint. Are you able to share anything from among your clients, what you're seeing?
I think it is messy, and I don't know that, I think we heard in some of the prior sessions in the DMO session that they are investing in making sure that they're putting clean data in so that they get good results out. I would say in the aggregate, I'd say most clients are probably, or most brands are probably still working towards that.
Yeah, that's my sense as well. Yeah.
Very good. And then in terms of agentic, was there anything, agentic seems to be the buzzword of the month. Obviously, it seems to be the place that we're going in terms of how travel is found and booked. Was there anything that was surprising to you about the results on the use of agentic AI so far?
Oh yeah, that's this slide. Yeah, I'd say it's not. It's pretty much what I would expect to see, because it's not that hard to experiment, really. So that's where we see that 33% of companies experimenting, and we've seen some great examples again yesterday and today. Nice tangible examples of either experimenting or putting agentic into use. I know there were a few tools mentioned, like N8N and Make. For what it's worth, I've tested a bunch of them, and my favorite is Zapier because it's very intuitive and very powerful. I think data governance is a high hurdle there, especially for large companies. So yeah, how about you? Your thoughts?
On agentic, I mean, I think it's still early days, and I think there's a lot of different companies in the space who are working to empower and enable travel brands to be able to be in a place where they can accept an agentic booking. But I think, again, we're probably not quite there. I think the first 6 months of 2026 will be pretty exciting, though.
Totally agree. Yeah, it's only getting better. Because we have 4 minutes, I wanted to follow up on your slide. So talked about how AI referrals are so really tiny still, but AI is obviously having a big impact on purchase decision making. Like you said, people get information and then they probably go direct, so that breaks the attribution. So are you seeing overall traffic down? Like, are you seeing direct traffic rise then among your clients? And then more importantly, are you seeing sales down? Because I think sales are going to continue to rise. People are booking travel either way.
Yeah, it's a great question. And that's really what matters in all of this, right? Is that I think we all got, and as marketers and as marketing agencies, I think, we all got hooked on traffic as the North Star metric. And a lot of our work right now is trying to educate clients and executive teams that, you can the last 25 years of getting traffic. It's more about visibility now. So to answer your question, Mike, I think traffic overall is consistent for most clients. We are seeing organic impressions. So people who are actually searching in Google, those are actually increasing still. It's just that brands have been losing traffic from Google because of AIOs and, of course, now AI mode. So again, a lot of our work is now focusing on trying to get the right KPIs in front of clients, and for us, trying to understand what we actually should be measuring. Because I think we're in this juncture or inflection point where we have to make sure that we're getting the right data to report out, so that we're not just having death by metrics. Sales are a mixed bag, I think, among our clients personally, but I believe that's probably more of a macro political economic climate thing than anything to do with AI, if I had to guess.
Yeah, back to this slide, we see that big drop among search, right? So people just not even using it as much, not necessarily clicking through from search results, which are more and more AI results. I'm actually not clear on if it's probably not lower usage of Google. Maybe it's a shift in perception of people saying, I am using an AI platform instead of search now. That's something we need more data on. I don't know exactly what people are thinking. And I've seen some studies that do a good job of asking people more directly, which I think we'll get into.
Yeah. And I think even a more pointed question might be, are people using a combination? Because I think in the early days of ChatGPT, a lot of different reporting and research were showing that people were using ChatGPT, yes, but then they were going into Google to verify what they had seen in AI. And I think that cross-pollination of sources is still very much a thing. I mean, I'm not a fan of saying, well, if I do it, everyone does it, but I do that. And I think a lot of people do that. They use AI daily, and it might be their primary, but then they are still going to Google to cross-reference and obviously see different results. So I think there's a bit of that happening too.
Yeah. Quick question from Paul. I think I can answer very fast. We only have a minute left. Big drop on travel review sites. Is that AI or something else? I would think it is AI. Yeah, you're getting a lot of that just text-heavy content from within LLMs, and no need to go visit TripAdvisor as much, etc. Anything else, Jared, you want to try to squeeze in?
I see Alex has a few questions. We're not going to have time.
Yeah.
Sorry, Alex.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes, it's like mobile and social. Thanks, everyone.